Highly successful individuals are always focused on what's next, but they often don't take time to reflect on their journey and how far they've come. I'm Craig Heatherly, host of the Path Less Travel podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary leaders. Their success rarely follows a straight path, and that's what makes their story so remarkable. Now let's dive into this week's episode after a brief message from our sponsors. Looking for top talent in tech or professional fields? Avero Talent connects businesses with exceptional candidates specializing in tailored recruiting solutions that match the right skills to your team's needs. Whether you're building a team or searching for a tough-to-fill position, Avero Talent delivers the expertise you need to hire smarter, faster, and with confidence. Let us help you find your next star employee.
At Cressy Leadership, we don't just train leaders, we transform business and change lives. Employees learn to communicate around difficult challenges. Leaders build skills that create a thriving culture. Companies become healthier and more successful. We're Aaron Cressy, Mickey Hay, and Anna McEachran, your expert partners, trainers, and coaches. Join the organizations already thriving with Cressy Leadership.
Welcome to the Path Less Travel podcast. This week we feature Wesley Mast, the president and visionary of Coppes Napanee Cabinet Company. Welcoming you to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it. This is really an honor.
It's an honor for me to be in different settings, learning about all these amazing companies that are doing great work in our community. And yours is no different. But not many have the kind of history that you guys have here, dating back to the 1800s. So give us a quick just history lesson on what Coppes is.
Yeah, so let me start it off with this. Our favorite saying right now is Coppes was started by two brothers, is reimagined by two brothers today. So if we go back to 1876, Coppes was started by John and Frank Coppes. They were brothers, and they started with a sawmill company, so this started as a sawmill. They ended up starting to build furniture, got into the Dutch kitchenette. I don't know if you're familiar with those Hoosier cabinets, built thousands of those. And it's really cool. We have records of how many they built in some of the books. And I think it was in the year 1921, I think they built 22,000 Hoosier cabinets. And they have always been on the leading edge of the kitchen industry. In the 1940, they actually invented the Lazy Susan right here on this property. So the Lazy Susan, as we know it today, the corner cabinet, was invented here. So Coppes has made some inventions in the kitchen, but they've always been on that leading edge. And what's really cool is that they helped develop the kitchen as it's known today. So it used to be the Hoosier kitchenette, it was just kind of this single piece of furniture. Congress actually did a study on the Dutch kitchenette that proved that the average housewife who was cooking for them could save about 2,000 steps by the efficiency that this Hoosier cabinet brought. And you can see how Coppes was always thinking ahead, trying to be innovative. And so Coppes survived 2 world wars, Great Depression, never missed a payroll. And so it was a booming company. They were both great at quality and mass producing. And I feel like that's maybe 2 things today that have separated themselves. But in the 40s, 50s, 60s, up until the late 70s, they were mass producing at a high quality. And so celebrities wanted Coppes kitchens. We have video footage of John F. Kennedy's kitchen being delivered. There's supposedly Elvis Presley wanted a Coppes, but Coppes said they couldn't get it done in time, so he decided to go elsewhere. But Frank Sinatra, the Fords, the Rockefellers, those were the people that bought Coppes Kitchen, and they wanted a Coppes. So Coppes was a household name, a brand, a product that people sought out and wanted. Unfortunately, as businesses grow and businesses fall, Coppes had its downfall. It eventually sold out of the family, the Coppes family, and was bought by different investment groups. And it's what we call the dark age, and it ended up in the hands of their top salesman. The top salesman is the individual who we bought the company from. So in 2007, we bought the old factory building, which many know as Coppes Commons. And Coppes Commons is the old factory building for the cabinet company. We've renovated that. There's the stores and retail shops and things in there that we know it's basically a space that we lease out. And then in 2017, we had the opportunity to purchase the cabinet businesses, which is what I'm running today. And so you can see when you start understanding and learning all the history and the stories that are in this company. My brother Malachi and I, in 2017, when my father said, hey, the owner wants out, he wants to quit, he's not sure what the future is, do you guys want to be involved? And I'm like, absolutely, like I have to be involved. I'm not going to let this, I can't sit back and say what if, or watching someone else do was something that I had first chance at. Maybe a little greedy, but I'll take it. And so it was kind of a weird situation. We were both involved in other things. My brother was working construction. I was actually in college. I went to college late, got an interpreting degree, and here I am building cabinets. But I talked to my dad, and I was like, hey, should I just quit college and come over and run this thing? And he said, no, finish your degree. Let's finish it out. We'll be able to manage. So managed it for a couple years, and then I jumped in 2020. And basically what today is the results of 2020. It's just, it wasn't a whole lot. Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot, but it still had a couple employees. Like I said, never missed a payroll. So this is our 149th year. And so next year's 150. And I'll tell you, it's exciting to be part of this story. It's not fully my story,
right,
but I get really excited about continuing someone else's story. And so when I talk about like the innovations, the cool things that have happened, no, that wasn't us, like me personally, but I get excited about continuing that legacy and the story.
A big thank you to Senior One Care for sponsoring today's episode. Founded in 2006 by Carl and Kyle Bossing, this family-owned business has provided compassionate in-home care for nearly 2 decades. If my family needed a caregiver, I'd call Kyle. With 6 Indiana locations, they give you the peace of mind while your loved ones receive the care they deserve. Learn more at senioronecare.com. Fascinating. Thanks for sharing those details. So cool. As you guys entered the scene...
And that's just the short version. You want to get me geeking out, like I can give you the long version too, but that's the short version.
As you guys entered the scene in the 2000s, early 2000s, and then really jumped all in 2017, what was that like?
It was overwhelming.
Because you're a young guy.
I'd like to think so, yeah. And it was overwhelming because, as you can imagine, we're coming in, we bought a brand that's really old, but yet I'm really new to this. And so it was definitely overwhelming because our competition's been around a lot. Like, they haven't been around longer than we are. They have more recent experience than we do. And so we're trying to fill a lot of big shoes. So I often say our brand is bigger than we are. The Coppes brand is bigger than what we are here at this facility. And I'd like to think in the last couple of years we've made some great strides to close that gap. But we were getting calls all over the country as we rebranded, putting a new face to it. And we had to do that because the former owner didn't do us a whole lot of favor in the reputation he left. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of cleanup we had to do to rebuild relationships and reputation. But the cool part is, as our rebranding came back out and people started hearing our name again, they were like, I didn't know you still existed. And this is so cool you're still around. And we still get calls all over the country. And my Coppes kitchen is in my house and I don't want to replace it. And it's great. But I need this hinge. And I'm like, we didn't make hinges. Maybe we should have. But it was really overwhelming. But I'd like to think that I like challenges. Although some of the hardest days of my life, I feel like are some of the best days of my life.
Some of the hardest days of your life are some of the best days of your life. Tell me more about what you mean by that.
I dream of being successful. And I don't want to be successful without putting the work in. And so for me, whenever I can put a hard day in, I think, man, this is part of the journey. Like, I'm grateful that I can put the sweat and the tears into actually not just a success because I got lucky, but I put the work in. And so it's almost like I'm trying to prove to myself that I deserve the success when I get to put in some hard days and hard work and say, this is what comes with the job. And so it's a mindset and it's helped me to realize that things aren't as hard then as they might seem, because in the big picture, they're great stepping stones. So I think it's all perspective.
And you've got your fingerprints on growth since 2017. You mentioned the words leading edge in the 1930s, 1940s. From what I've experienced just in talking with you and then also walking through the facility, you're continuing to be on the leading edge of innovation. So you get to have a big part of that and play a big role in that, and then also the lives that you get to impact. So yeah, you can clearly see that you're in your sweet spot right now.
I'd like to think so, yeah. I have a lot of fun, that's for sure.
The title of the podcast is The Path Less Traveled. When you think about that title and you think about your journey, what comes to mind?
First of all, kind of like I said about the hard days, I don't shy away from the hard things. Yes, I don't like hard conversations. Some people here might say, oh, you avoid hard conversations. But when something's hard, I love, it motivates me. And the words impossible, one of my mottos is break that in half, and it says I'm possible. And so one thing that we do here is, and some people would say it might be a fault, but we rarely say no. And it's, when I say rarely say no, it's rarely say no to the things that fit our scope of work, in the sense of, if it's woodworking, you ask me to make something out of steel, I'm not going to make that. But I will help you find out how to get what you're looking for. So that's where our team doesn't say no. And instead, we might say, we don't do it, but we could help you accomplish this through our connections and people we know. And so by rarely saying no, it's allowed us to get into some really cool projects that other people said no to. And for us, it really is, are you willing to pay for it, and are you willing to wait for it? And if the customer, excuse me, if the customer's willing to do that, there's usually not a whole lot that we can't accomplish for that person. And that's what makes it really fun, to just tackle those things that people are saying they said no to. And so I get motivated by those things. I think sometimes my team is, Wesley, you just need to say no. But does that make sense, where it's not, I try to keep it under the woodworking umbrella. We're a very talented team here, and they thrive under being able to use their brains and try new things. And then I think along with that, trying new things, but sticking to a high standard of quality. And so it's one thing to accomplish like a look. So somebody designs something, you can accomplish the look, but how you get there there's many different ways. We've set our standard of how we build cabinetry, and so when it's custom, it's not a matter of just accomplishing it. It's a matter of accomplishing it in the methods and the structure and we call them 8 solid features. There's these tools that we use so that when you buy it, you know you're getting it at this level with these kind of joinery, with this kind of method. And so it's not just achieving the look, you're achieving a quality look behind it, which I think the quality often goes unnoticed once it's done, but the quality is what allows our cabinets to last for the 70, 80 years that they're still in houses. And so we want to keep that up. So we get a lot of people saying, you don't have to go that extreme on the quality or something, but that's who we are. And so we choose to stick to quality, especially in a consumer world where it's, oh, we're just going to replace them. We choose to stick to quality.
Yeah, as you guys have grown since 2017, really since you said 2020,
yeah,
it really started taking off. Yeah. I'm sure that's a challenge of trying to put the gas pedal down, but also keep quality. When we were walking around, you said, yeah, this piece right here is custom. I was like, wait, what does that mean?
The word custom gets used a lot these days, and so how do you explain what we do when a custom shop says they can't do it? How do you explain what we do?
Yeah.
That's the hard part, is I feel like we truly are custom. Custom means this is what you're looking for, we're here to make it happen. And if we can't make it happen, I'm going to give you a really good reason why, and you're going to understand the reason why, to be like you're on board, and when we end up on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mentioned earlier you're a young guy leading the company. How would you describe just your leadership style? And has it evolved since 2017, 2020? And then also maybe what areas are you looking to continue to evolve as a leader?
Yeah. I feel like I have a different leadership style. It's a very patient and methodical leadership style. I'm not a loud, bold, and say it or else. It's not my style. I'm a little slow sometimes. And I know I wrestle with that because I feel like everybody's like leadership. You just got to make that decision and run. I'll tell you a quick little story. Like, we were going to bring something back in-house that we'd been outsourcing. And I've got team members who are like, we got to sell this equipment and get it out. I had this bad feeling about selling it. I was just like, something didn't set right. 2 months later, we're building that in-house again and saving like significant costs. So there's this some people have said I have a sixth sense, this gut feeling, and I really have learned to listen to that. I had a mentor of mine, and for about 2.5 years, he was a coach, mentor to us here. And when we parted ways, he told me, I got one piece of advice for you, Wesley. And I've seen it, and I was like, I just want you to listen to this. He said, you've got this nanosecond of truth that pops in. He's like, you've got a nanosecond, and he says, you know it. You've got to learn to act. And so he's like, what I've seen you do is you don't listen to that nanosecond of truth. You continue to investigate, ask, but it's okay to do those things, but you got to go back to that nanosecond. I see it on your face when it happens. I can see it, but then you reel back from it. And so that's the part that's really developed is, nope, that's the truth. I've got to run with it. There's still a methodical way of acting on it where I try my absolute best to let the ideas here be the other people's ideas, because then if it's their idea, they make it happen. If everything's my idea, if everything's Wesley's way, if everything has to be approved by me, it puts a lot of pressure on me. So I'm willing to be patient for them to take a month or two to figure out that this can be their idea. So sometimes there's issues. I'm slow at tackling the issue a little bit, because once the issue's tackled, it's tackled by him, who has the responsible to fix it. And sometimes it takes months, sometimes it's shorter, and I try to be very careful. Like, sometimes you can't I'm not saying let things go. That's
right.
Not my point. It's that if you can just be patient and let that person struggle through it a little bit, they're going to come up with a solution, and it's their solution, and they get so excited. They bring it to the table, and they tell the team, and I have to bite my tongue sometimes of, I knew this was going to come, or I saw this happening, but this is what I wanted. This is what I want. And it's so much better when it comes to them. And for me, I'm like, it's not even always clear to me. That's where that sixth sense sometimes, like, I've just got my brother. If you talk to my brother, he's learned after working together for 5 years. When Wesley's got that gut feeling, he's like, stop and listen, because it's usually right. But the problem is I don't always know in the moment. Like, I need that team to help me flesh it out too. But it's like something isn't settled, something isn't right. And so then we flesh it out, and usually the team does a phenomenal job at helping even myself come to that. What is that truth that's unsettled? And so I have a long ways to go on the leadership journey, and I love to put people first. It's my goal. And so I feel like I'm just starting. I feel like I've definitely grown, but it's been fun, but it's also been difficult.
It says a lot about you, and I think everybody can agree, as a young leader, you've got to surround yourself with people that are 10 years, 15, 20 years down the path than you are. And then you've also got to be humble enough to expose yourself to that type of advice or feedback, however you want to phrase it, and then to listen to it and then act on it. You mentioned a mentor earlier that played a really big role in just the advice he gave you. What other mentors come to mind, and what was their impact on you as you look back on those that helped just shape who you are as an individual?
Yeah, so this is a weird one, but what changed my life was I read the book Gifted Hands by Ben Carson. And I didn't want to be a doctor, but he, growing up, basically set his mind to, I can learn this, and I can do this, and I can be better. And his grades in school went way up. He became the top of his class. Like, it changed with just a mindset. And I read that when I was in high school, and it seems like it's changed since then. I can do this too. So even though I've never met Ben Carson, or I just read his books, he's had a huge impact in how I think today. And just being willing to, it's a mindset. And so that, I give a lot of credit to that book, where it started. And since then, like, there's been just so many good people in my life. I tell my wife all the time, I am so blessed to have the people in my life that I do. I just am. Like, I've got such great people, like from family who's had success and been in business to just friends from church and people I get to meet and interact with. It's just, I give the credit to God. Like, God knew that I needed these people in my life. And I think part of that comes from I have a code for my life. I have a bunch of different codes that I try to live by. And one of them is that it's the people you choose to have around you that really shows who you are. And so I've made it my goal to surround myself with people who I want to be like. But to bring it home a little more, sounds crazy, but our pastor at church, he's our youth pastor, worship pastor. I've been able to do some ministry alongside him. Peter Wren has just impacted me a lot. Just to keep me on track as from a spiritual standpoint. Him and I meet regularly, and although he's not in the business world, he's impacted me personally in a lot of ways. And then I meet with a couple of friends from just older than me that I meet with regularly just to ask questions. And so it's really interesting. Target CFOs, I don't know why, but there's something really special about what a CFO does for a company and their insight. And so I'm recommending, if somebody's looking for a business mentor, I've found that a CFO is one of the best mentors. They're practical and they understand the business, yet they're not always leading from the front.
Yeah, you mentioned a second ago about when you're codes, and that's who you surround yourself with. There's a company, actually a former podcast guest, I believe it's part of their interviewing process. Who are the top 4, top 5 closest people in your life, and tell me about them. And it showcases so much about that individual that you may not find out about when you ask the very basic interviewing questions. So you've received some advice, lots of advice from a lot of people, clearly. If you were giving yourself advice years ago, 2017, 2020, whenever it may be, what advice would you give to a young Wesley that's just getting his feet wet or jumping in the deep end with a business?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is just, I didn't always believe this, but God is good. And he wants good for me beyond what I want or could want for myself or even imagine. And that takes patience. So I wish I could tell my younger self, be patient. You don't have to necessarily fight for all the good in your life. Be patient, trust God. He wants that good. Because I fought for the good in my life for a long time, and I didn't believe anybody else wanted good for me. And now I feel like I just can sit back. Once I discovered that, I feel like it was too late. I realized I can sit back and I can trust God. And I think that's where that patience comes from. I feel like I have a pretty good level of patience. When I'm impatient, it means I've already been patient for a long time. But I just believe that like good wins, truth wins. And if you trust that, if you always tell the truth, there's no reason to get in a hurry. And I think that's really helped me in the last few years. I wish I would have learned that a lot earlier in life. Probably kept me out of some trouble. But that's what I wish I could go back and tell myself.
There's a book that comes to mind. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, if you've read it.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Oh my goodness, that'll basically holding up a mirror at yourself and saying, we've become so efficient as individuals, as just people on this earth, but yet we're all still so busy. How is that? So yeah, it's a fascinating book.
I should read that again.
I'm going to pivot right now in the conversation. Hard pivot.
All right, let's do it. That's what business is about.
And that there's no other way of getting to it other than just asking you, what didn't you expect when you became the president of a company at a young age, and even now? What did you not expect? Because I think it's important for listeners or aspiring entrepreneurs to know there's a lot of great things with this.
For sure.
But there are some tough days. So what didn't you expect?
I think the loneliness. There's a lot of loneliness, and there's not a lot of places that you can go with everything that you deal with at running a business. So the stage we're in, one thing I didn't expect is to be head of HR. We're not big enough to have an HR director, so guess who plays HR? I do the hiring. I get to do the, I said get to do the firing. No, I have to do the firing if it's applicable, and understanding in and outs of HR. And so that's one I didn't expect, the loneliness. And then, just when you're in this position, you understand what it's like, but you can't really explain it to someone unless you're there. So a lot of people on your podcast, I resonate with the stories I hear on your podcast, but as a young guy, I feel fairly often, I feel pretty lonely. I've hired my friends here. So that's really cool. That's a blessing. But you can also see sometimes how I have to keep my boundaries and almost create a wall a little bit. Like I can only go so far, although everything in me wants to be like, you're amazing, like you're awesome, because I love these people and I get to work with my friends. But there's also a loneliness to that, because I can't just tell them about, I'm not going to unload to my employees. And so there's a bit of loneliness. And one night I was here late on Friday night, and it was a hard week. And I was driving home. I live on the north side of Napanee, just a couple miles outside of town. And I had to drive past Northwood. There's a football game. And it just hit me so hard. Like how many, and I don't know what all's going on in their lives. I'm not negating that they might have had a hard week too, and they just managed to get to go somewhere fun. I'm not negating that, because maybe I could do better at that. Just drop it all and go have some fun. But it hit me as I'm going home. It's 7, it's almost 8 o'clock. I haven't eaten yet. I haven't seen my family, and everybody just seems like they're having the greatest time. And I'm driving home alone after being a couple hours alone in my office for a couple hours. And I just remember like thinking, this is what it takes. Like, this is the things that no one talks about. People want to say, oh, you're successful, but we don't talk about those lonely nights. They're not fun to talk about. I don't want to relive it. I want to share it because it's impactful, but you get what I'm saying. It's not the things that your conversations. My wife's amazing, but I try my best not to like bring that home on my wife and children, to not burden them with that. And she by no means is, oh, don't talk about it. That's not who she is. She'd probably want me to talk about it more, actually. But I try my best to, like, in that 3-mile drive, to just switch gears, go home, be with the family. But that Friday night, just seeing everybody at the football game, I love football, and just to deal with the weight I had to deal with, seeing the fun of a Friday night lights, that mixture was just hit hard that night.
And they've had a really good team too.
I know. It's the year you want to be there. And so we don't often talk about all the sacrifices that get made. I go on a week of vacation, and everyone's like, oh, that must be nice. You own a business, you get to go on vacation. We don't talk about the sacrifices I made for that to be. And those like Friday nights are some of the sacrifices that build up over time. And so I don't always understand why God called me to be where I am today, but I know He has me exactly where He wants me to be, and that's where a lot of peace comes in on those hard nights.
I've got one question for you, maybe 2 questions, then I'll get your final thoughts. I think you're a guy that understands his purpose and leans into it. I'm curious, what do you believe your purpose is here? And it could be here at the business or here on this. Have you thought about that much?
Absolutely, yeah. And it goes into the business is, I believe that we're meant to leave stuff, like saying that says, like, you use something, leave it better than you found it. I've taken that concept, and it's not just to things, it's to people, and it's to this earth. And so I'm a Christian. I love the Lord with all my heart, and I would lay down everything for Him. And I feel called. He's blessed me, like, tremendously and above what I deserve. It's been a struggle for me sometimes to accept what I've been given, saying it's too good. But recently God taught me, like, you've been given talents. I've given you this. You can go squash them. You can act like you don't deserve it. You can go bury it. Or you can take it and go double it. And so I quit worrying about what I was just talking about and said, how can I take this and make a difference? And so when I'm with people, my life goal, or one of my life goals, I want people to remember me by, Wesley was life-giving. You know how sometimes you're around people and it's just, man, that's draining. I strive to be a person that's, man, I felt like that was fun, that was encouraging. And I'm not perfect at it by no means, but that's something that I try to be. And so I bring that in people. I just hope that meeting them, that I can leave, we separate ways, no matter how it separates. I hope that we can be better people because we met. And I brought that into the company, where our why here at the company is to create spaces where family and friends make and share lifelong memories. So my goal here is that my employees can be better people because they work at Coppes Napanee. And we work 40 to 50 hours a week. That's a lot of our life that we work. So I believe that work should be a place that they can become better people. Because if it's not, why are we working? Like, I know we have to make money, I know we have to make a living, and I'm not dissing that, but work, I encourage my employees, like, if you're not happy here, I will help you find a job you're happy. Because I do not want you to work somewhere 20 years and be like, man, I wasn't happy. I want people to be happy. And so along those lines, like even our customers, our vendors, and anybody that calls, I tell the team, let the interaction that happens, they leave, even if it's a wrong phone call, help them out somehow. We had a guy call us asking if we sell crossbows. I don't know what it is, but I would have sold him a crossbow. It's just like the idea of let's help them. Who are you looking for? Can we help? And it's just, can the interactions, and I think that people is where we leave our impact. Like all these things, like I've seen successful people pass away, and the only thing that they really left was the impact they had on people. And so for me, how can I impact or leave things better than I found it? And not just things, but how can I leave people? Not leave people, but I think you understand what I'm saying is like that the interaction was better because I got to meet you. Even if it was short, even if it was long. And that's really become a huge, it's actually my number one code for my life. Is the number one was, number two was there's the people you surround yourself with is defines who you are. And the code number one is leave things and people better than when you found them.
I've got one final question for you. It's a question around some of the investments you've made in your life. And as you think about the investments you've made, whether it be in your leadership skill set, or within your family, or within the business here, or your spiritual walk, whatever it may be, I guess what's one of the most worthwhile investments you've made? And when you think about that, also the impact that it's had on you or others.
Going a little farther back, I gave 4 years of my life to the mission field, actually 5 years of my life to the mission field. No income, and I pretty much gave everything I have. And it taught me, that's where that perspective came from. And that's probably the biggest investment, if you think financially, physically, just everything about it. I left home, I served on the mission field, and I'd like to think like I sacrificed most of what I had. And it was so worth it. And like it shaped who I am today, how I think, how I view people. And it doesn't just end there then, there's a few places that I've been invited to sit at, and I feel very unworthy to be a part of this group or a part of that. But I tell myself, those are the people I want to surround myself with. So if I've paid to be part of a group where I get to sit monthly with, it's called C12, and I'm the youngest, but it's been so good to sit at that table and surround myself with the people that I want to be like. The people, so if I wait until I think that I'm qualified, it's too late. So I've got to humble myself. I'm trying to learn how do I be humble to sit at a table that's just so far beyond me, but that's where I want to be, and to push myself out there. So like I'd say, if you can find a space that you feel unqualified to sit at, go do it. Go do it, because it puts you where we need to be to learn. And C12 is one of them. It's a group that I've joined, and they've invested, I feel like they've invested in me, and I get to share from my experiences, and it's been really good.
This has been fun. What final thoughts, you get the last thought here, or last thoughts that you'd want to share, whether it be about the business here, whether it be about leadership, advice, anything. The opportunity to close us out is all yours.
So one thing I've incorporated in my life is most every day I try to write down something I'm thankful for. And Like I said, I'm so blessed to be running Coppes Napanee. I'm so blessed to be working alongside my brother running this place. I'm so blessed to work with the employees that are here. Like, I'm so blessed by my wife, who I got to marry, my 2 kids. I have just the most blessed life. And I used to not think that. And I think it changed when I started writing down the things I'm thankful for. And if something's changed my life, probably more than anything, it's just one little thing every day. Write something down you're thankful for. It could be the dinner you had last night. It can be mundane. But it's taught me, and it really applies to the business and the hard things, that it's back to what we were talking about, like how do you face hard things and why do you appreciate hard things, is I've really found that I can appreciate there's always something to be thankful for. And things aren't as hard anymore. Not because the thing isn't as hard, but your whole mindset and perspective on it changes from a different perspective. And so sometimes you go through those things like, I never want to go through that again. That was so hard. For me, being thankful and learning to be thankful every day, it prevents me having to go through those hard things again. Not that because they're not hard, but my perspective on it changed. And so when it comes to business and working with people, and some of the hard things for me here are, I don't have a lot of experience. And so I'm like flying by the seat of my pants, trying to make the best decision and not wanting to fail and leading these people well. And so my goal of not just making the business successful, I feel like that's a given. I want to make the business successful, but to have these people that God has allowed me to lead. There's a book, I think more people should read it. It's called Everybody Matters, Bob Chapman. And he just talks about these people that I get to lead is someone's precious child. So my son and daughter are going to go work someday for someone. So my goal is to treat my employees the way I want their future boss to treat them. And so I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to sit here. Like I say, when those hard things come,
yeah,
that's why I'm so thankful. Like I can't say how thankful I am.
That's special.
So I guess that's what I just encourage you. If you're in a hard spot, I don't know who I'm to say this. It's just my personal testimony. Be thankful. Just go look for something you be thankful for, and it's not hard. There's always something. There's always something.
I'm reminded of most mornings of mine, and it's thank you for that I was able to stand up, able to have a glass of water, that I slept in a bed, that my wife was next to me, that I've got 2 little ones upstairs. I can see, just like if you do more and more of those, it's going to give you a different outlook on life. So thanks,
I probably get blamed sometimes for not taking. It almost can appear sometimes I don't, like something's rough or difficult. It's like, oh, you're not taking it serious. No, I see the good in it. And so it's not that you negate or avoid the hard. And I think that's just what I feel like in my leadership journey has allowed me to be, it's okay. It's okay. The guys mess up. It's okay. Like if you work here long enough, you find out Wesley doesn't yell at you. Like Wesley doesn't get mad. In fact, the worse it gets, probably the calmer Wesley gets. And it's just, I'm thankful for these guys. Like I wish I could tell my employees how much, like words don't do justice, because I tried to share it the other day in our monthly meeting. Every month I get to share with them and kind of a vision and just share with them. And I just don't feel like words do justice on, I hired them because they're the experts and they're good at what they do and I trust them. Like, it doesn't feel fair that I get to sit here and be the president of the company and be the face of the company and maybe the most well-known across like our dealers and stuff, because they're the ones that make it happen. And it's so hard to put into words, this company doesn't exist without them. They're the guys that are here every day making things happen. And I'm just so thankful for that. So if they listen to this, I hope they get a glimpse into just how grateful I am.
That's amazing, man. Thanks for sharing that. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast. It's one thing to talk about the company. Like most leaders want to do that. Maybe half or a quarter of them want to actually talk about themselves. They're humble leaders, and I love that about them. And that's what's made them successful. But then there's also a story that employees, they don't hear. And whether it be some of the hard times that you're faced with as a leader, or just the great appreciation that you have for them. And I wanted it to come across, and it did in this interview. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it was one of the reasons why I decided to start up this podcast. And moments like that make this special. So I want to thank you for being a part of the Path Less Traveled podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's it for this week's episode, featuring the president and visionary of Coppes Napanee Cabinet Company, Wesley Mast. Until next week, have a great day.